here at the Roanoke Times in downtown Roanoke. On a typical day, the Roanoke Times newspaper is delivered to between 65,000 and 85,000 houses. The Roanoke Times newspaper is ranked 5th in the whole country by percentage of adult readership in its area. One of Roanoke Times' newest reporters was nice enough to invite us for a tour of the building where the news is made. Sara Gregory joined the Roanoke Times as an education reporter last May. Sara has won awards for her journalism, working as an editor of the news website and magazine for Student Press Law Center. Sara interned at several major newspapers before joining the Roanoke Times. Sara grew up in Charlotte and attended the University of North Carolina, where she was managing editor for the Daily Tar Heel for 2 years. I am excited to tour the Roanoke Times building and ask Sara Gregory 3 questions. I'm here with Sara Gregory, education reporter for Roanoke Times. Thank you so much for inviting us, Ms. Gregory.
Thanks for having me.
In my last episode, I was able to get to know some of the news journalists who work at WDBJ-7. What are some of the differences between television journalism like WDBJ does and newspaper journalism like you and Roanoke Times do?
Well, so one of the biggest differences is that generally reporters like me don't have to go on camera, which is something that makes me a little bit nervous. And TV reporters are generally really comfortable doing that. One of the other differences is that sometimes when you're writing for a newspaper or when I'm writing for online, I can have a little bit more space to go into more details than maybe TV can do if they have sort of a shorter segment that they have to produce to fit on the 6 o'clock news. So sometimes that means that we can have a little bit more space and flexibility to go a little deeper into the issues. But a lot of our job is really the same. I mean, we're still trying to tell readers and listeners the news about what's happening in Roanoke and around the world. So there's a lot of similarities too.
When my dad and I first decided to start 3 Questions with Ava Rosa, we created a Facebook page, Twitter feed, a YouTube channel, and a website. With all the different ways that people can get news for free, do you ever worry about the newspapers like Roanoke Times becoming obsolete? And what are newspapers doing to avoid that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that I worry about the Roanoke Times itself becoming obsolete because I think that people still want to know what's happening in their communities. I think one of the things that me and other journalists in this building are concerned about is sort of, will readers continue to consume news through a printed product? And in 50 years or 100 years, that might not be the case. And so what we're doing to sort of, I guess, prepare for that time is, working on our website, working on our digital skills. So that's why if you go to roanoke.com, you'll see videos, you'll see maps that are interactive, you'll see sort of timelines. You can go to our Twitter page or our Facebook page and interact with our social media accounts. And I think continuing to evolve, we will remain, really important for readers. People really want news. They really want to know what's happening in their community. And I don't think that's going to change. The medium on which people get their news might change, but that's why we just have to reach people in different ways.
In researching for our interview, I discovered articles that you have written about a really wide variety of different subjects. Why did you decide to be a journalist, and what are some of the key accomplishments that you hope to achieve in your career?
I decided to be a journalist when I was about your age. In elementary school, I worked on my student paper, and then when I got to middle school, I actually started a student paper, and then I worked on my student newspaper all through high school and then through college. So journalism has always been something that I've been interested in, partly because I really like to write, but also because I'm just really interested in what's going on in the world around me and what's happening to my community, and I like the position that journalism gives me to, walk up to important people and ask them questions. And I think that's a real privilege that journalists have and all citizens have, but it's I consider it very special that I get to come to work and call people and ask them to take time out of their day to explain to me sort of how things work in the community. And I guess going forward, one of the things I'm really passionate about is education reporting. I think education in general is just hugely important to our society. I think that it affects a whole range of our community. It affects students in the classroom, teachers, parents, even people who, wouldn't appear to have any sort of connection to the schools. They're all sort of impacted by what happens in those buildings. And I think it's really important that there are watchdogs like the people at the Roanoke Times who keep tabs on what's happening and make sure that things are going the way they should be. So going forward, I think I'd like to continue doing education reporting.
Thank you so much, Ms. Gregory, for showing me around the Roanoke Times and allowing me to interview you. I promised just 3 questions, but you are welcome to share your thoughts with our viewers before we say goodbye.
Thanks. I just want to say I think it's so great what you're doing with this video series, asking people questions, and I think it's great when students share their thoughts and opinions with the wider community. I think it's really important that people listen to what students have to say, and that's definitely something that I try to incorporate in my stories about students, because I think that you guys have sort of a critical voice about what's happening to you. So thank you for having me on.
I want to thank Sara Gregory and the whole Roanoke Times team. What they do for our community is so important that they are protected by the Constitution. Freedom of the press exists so that people like Sara can ask our leaders the hard questions that we can't ask ourselves. I learned so much today, and I hope you did too. Thank you for watching 3 Questions with Ava Rosa. See you next time. Sara Gregory joined the Roanoke Times as an educated reporter. Thank you so much for joining. It's on? Okay. Thank you so much for joining me, Miss Gregory, for showing me around the Roanoke Times and allowing me to interview you. Okay. Can you get that first part, though?